Okay, now on to the use of the PM9100 continuous subglottic suction regulator. You can see we have it interfaced here with a traditional vacuum regulator. One thing of note, this does need its own canister setup. This PM9100 will operate independently of whatever this other vacuum regulator is doing. In such, it needs its own canister. This is continuous suction. It's draining the subglottic lumen of the endotracheal tube or the tracheostomy tube. So you need its own separate collection container. You don't need a large collection container for this. Maybe we're talking about a maximum of possibly 300 milliliters of secretions a day that come out of the subglottic area of the patient. So it can be a very small suction canister. It doesn't have to be a 2-liter canister. A small one's nice. It keeps the compressible volume down, and it keeps kind of everything moving in that direction. Two important things, and the reason why we have this float ball on here, and you can see right now it's in the down position, so you can barely see maybe a little bit of orange on here, that you need both vacuum, negative pressure, and you need flow to clear secretions from any part of the patient. So we have maximized the flow rate of this regulator to be compatible with draining the subglottic area of the patient. So typically to turn this on, we just turn it up to 20 to 30 or whatever the recommended vacuum level is by the endotracheal tube or the tracheostomy tube manufacturer. The other thing you'll note on this setup is that the canister is at kind of below the level or at the level of the head of the patient. That's probably optimal, because when this canister gets higher up than the head of the patient, for every 12 inches that the canister is above the head of the patient, your vacuum should be compensated for by about 10 millimeters of mercury to overcome the gravity of that happening. And gravity not by Sirius's situation, but the gravity that takes place of vacuum loss throughout the water column. So you can see I have it turned here to 20 millimeters of mercury for vacuum. The ball is up and pretty much clearly visible, and you can see we have it also. It's recommended that you protect this maybe with its own overflow protection. So this canister doesn't maybe not necessarily have overflow protection. So to ensure that we're trying to keep this vacuum regulator clear, we have a hydrophobic filter in line with this unit to protect it in case there's overflow of secretions from the canister. So kind of to demonstrate what happens here is when the tubing or when the endotracheal tube becomes occluded and we stop flow, you can see in this motion that the ball goes down and starts to become invisible, that the clog is unblocked. You can see that the ball pops back up and is now visible. So what we're talking about by the subglottic portion of the endotracheal tube is this is an adult endotracheal tube, or a large endotracheal tube, I should say, a 7.5 millimeter endotracheal tube. So we actually have 3 lumens on this endotracheal tube. The main breathing lumen, this colored piece is actually the subglottic lumen, and then this is the pilot balloon that controls the inflation of the cuff on the endotracheal tube. So this subglottic regulator interfaces with this lumen here and gets connected here. The subglottic lumen of the endotracheal tube is at just above on the posterior side of the tube, just above the cuff. So this is the area where there's a hole that's to drain any secretions while the patient is kind of on their back. And the tube sits posteriorly, so it drains secretions so that you can see if this hole becomes covered up, whether it be from secretions or for whatever reason that this lumen becomes obstructed, you can see that the ball then corresponds and falls down. When the lumen is uncovered, you can see the ball pops back up and is now visible. It only takes about 3 liters per minute of flow to keep this ball visible above the black line on the new design. It'll only take about 3 liters a minute of flow to keep the ball up floating above that black line. So anytime that ball is down below there, you have less than 3 liters a minute flowing through your system, therefore possibly indicating that the subglottic lumen is not operating in the manner that it needs to be operated, and it's not being effective at clearing secretions. So when it's effective clearing secretions, you may see secretions flowing through here, but if there's a blockage of any reason, this gets occluded and you can see that the ball falls down. I wanted to now talk a little bit about dealing with obstructions in here in our push to clear feature that we have on here. At this point, you can see that the ball is down and not visible. If this is the case, one option to the clinician that's given is that we can engage this push to clear button. When this is depressed, it goes right to line vacuum. So whatever the wall vacuum is, 21 inches of mercury or 500 millimeters of mercury, whatever your wall is set at, it will go down to whatever that's set at for the entire time that this is depressed. So we caution you not to hold this button down for long periods of time. Periods of 5 to 10 seconds maybe at a time to see about clearing the obstruction. So one of the things that you can see is that if the tube is obstructed with secretions and you depress this and now the secretions are cleared, the ball pops up, and when the button is not depressed any longer, you can see that the ball is flowing and it takes very little time. The vacuum regulator goes right back to where its preset level is. In this case, it's 20 millimeters of mercury. It pretty much instantaneously goes down to back down to 20 millimeters of mercury. So you don't have to worry about holding minus 500 millimeters of mercury in that subglottic area of the patient. So thank you very much for viewing this video. My name is Andy Brown. I am the Clinical Product Manager at Precision Medical. If you need any more information regarding this product, please feel free to contact Precision Medical or your local dealer.